Hello, welcome back. What if your entire personality, how you love, how you cope, how you connect, was shaped by a role you never chose but was forced to play as a child? That's the quiet truth for so many of us healing from childhood trauma. Survival required becoming someone we were never meant to be. If you've ever felt like a stranger to yourself, buried beneath years of pain, internal fears, and anxiety, feeling really misunderstood, this message is for you. Today, we're diving deep into something that shapes so much of our inner world, how we love, connect, and relate. I'm talking about the 8 roles we adopt in childhood to feel loved, safe, and valued. These are the roles we learned to play in childhood just to survive. So let me ask you, have you ever found yourself stuck in patterns you don't fully understand, asking things like, why do I keep doing this? Why do I feel the need to prove myself, fix others, or constantly seek attention? These aren't quirks, they're survival strategies. They're deeply rooted patterns that helped you feel safe, accepted, and valued in a dysfunctional family system. And while they once helped you cope, today they may be the very thing keeping you from real connection, self-worth, and freedom. Hi, I'm Kerri McKenna Reese. I know what it is to live through the silence, the sorrow, and the weight of complex trauma. Today, as a trauma recovery coach, I guide others towards healing, wholeness, and the safety of stepping into who they authentically are. If content around healing, complex trauma, breaking old patterns, and stepping into your authentic self resonates with you, I warmly invite you to subscribe and join the Trauma Well Tribe, where we navigate complex trauma with truth, tenderness, and practical tools. To everyone already a part of the tribe here at Kerri Coaching, thank you deeply. Your presence and courage inspires me every single day. Today, we're going to explore 8 critical roles we often unconsciously adopt to fulfill our core human needs, to feel loved, to feel seen, to matter, and to belong. Understanding these roles can change your life, empowering you to heal and grow beyond old patterns. These roles often feel like our personality, but they're a part of the dysfunctional family structure, right? You didn't choose them, you adopted them to survive. So let's begin with the role that is most overlooked but deeply affected, and that's the lost child. This is the child who goes unnoticed. They withdraw, disconnect, and fade into the background, not because they want to be invisible, but because it feels safer not to be seen. Lost children often learn early that expressing needs, feelings, or desires leads to rejection, punishment, or being ignored. So they stop trying. They become quiet, compliant, and emotionally self sufficient, but not in a healthy way, and not by choice, but by survival. They might grow up to be loners, daydreamers, or deeply independent adults who struggle to connect emotionally with others, but beneath the surface is often a deeply profound loneliness and longing for connection they were never allowed to express. Now, let's look at the survival roles shaped by perfectionism and pressure to perform. These include the golden child and the overachiever, both praised on the outside but silently collapsing on the inside. The golden child is the one who's idealized by the family, right? They are used to reflect the image the family wants to believe about itself. They're praised for being obedient, achieving, or playing by the family's rules. But this special treatment comes at a cost. The golden child is often pressured to suppress their real feelings, opinions, and needs to maintain their role. They can't afford to fail, to struggle, or to say, I'm not okay. What looks like privilege on the outside feels like a prison on the inside. The golden child lives in a gilded cage, praised for who the family wants them to be, not for who they really are. They may grow up with imposter syndrome, emotional repression, and the fear of being exposed as not enough. I have a client who was praised for being strong, for holding it together, but inside they were crumbling. They learned to equate love with performance and silence their real needs to keep the peace. And it took them years to realize that being seen isn't the same as being known. Now let's talk about the brilliant overachiever. I also call this one the performer. If you've learned early that love must be earned, you're likely caught in overachieving. Achievements become your currency for acceptance, love, and validation. This is one of the most common trauma roles in relationships. This is the high performer, the straight A student, the overachiever. Does that sound familiar? This person unconsciously believes if I succeed, if I'm perfect, if I achieve enough, then I'll be worthy of love. I played this role for many years, constantly striving, never resting, because deep down I believed love was something I had to earn. But here's the truth: your worth isn't based on what you accomplish, it's inherent. You deserve love because you exist, not because of your performance. Today, you can begin to shift from performance based love towards true self acceptance and healing from complex trauma. Next are the roles that emerge when a child refuses to play along with the family's dysfunction. These are the scapegoat and the rebel. They are the truth tellers, the disruptors, the ones who refuse to stay silent, and they pay the highest price. This is the role I relate to the most, the scapegoat. The scapegoat is the one who gets blamed, often for things they have nothing to do with, right? Has nothing to do with them. If you were the scapegoat, you may have been the identified problem in your family. But here's the truth: scapegoats aren't the problem, they're the ones who refuse to pretend. Scapegoats often see and name the dysfunction their other family members want to deny. Their truth telling threatens toxic systems. So instead of fixing the dysfunction, the family targets the one who dares to see it. Maybe you were the child who got in trouble for other people's mistakes. Maybe you were the one labeled too sensitive, too dramatic, too angry. Maybe you were like me and told that you have been trouble since the day you were born because you wouldn't conform. This is emotional abuse, plain and simple. You were none of those things. What you were was a mirror, and one they didn't want to look in. They didn't want to see the true reflection of the family. Next is a role that gets the worst reputation, right? The rebel, the problem child. This person is labeled difficult, constantly seeking attention by challenging rules and expectations. They're often misunderstood as problematic when really the rebel's actions are simply cries for connection. They think, if I act out, people notice me. This isn't an attention deficit, it's an attention desperation. Because underneath every rebellious outburst is something far more vulnerable, an unconscious cry for connection. The behavior says, see me, value me, prove I matter. This role emerges strongly in environments lacking emotional safety or attention and is one of the classic trauma roles in relationships. Whether you were loud and disruptive or quietly defiant, this role is about desperately seeking acknowledgement. It's important to understand this behavior isn't malicious, it's survival, an attempt to fill a deep unmet need for attention and love. Now let's move on into two roles rooted in self-abandonment: the caregiver and the approval seeker. Both believe deep down, if I give enough, if I please enough, maybe I'll finally be loved. These are children who learn to earn love by disappearing into others' needs. The first one is the caregiver. This is the overfunctioning hero. This is common among those who learn early on that their value was tied to what they gave others, right? The caretaker endlessly gives and smooths over issues, believing unconsciously, if I take care of others, they'll take care of me. These are the nurturers, the givers, the people who anticipate everyone else's needs before their own. This role is rooted deeply in childhood neglect or trauma where emotional care was lacking. And the caretaker often they neglect themselves, secretly hoping that if they give enough, love will finally come their way. Maybe you're the one always giving but rarely receiving. Today, I encourage you to recognize your needs matter as much as everybody else's needs do. Balanced relationships thrive on mutual respect, not endless sacrifice. Don't confuse people pleasing with love. One is survival, the other is connection. Real love doesn't require you to disappear. Next is the approval seeker. The approval seeker is always scanning for validation, affirmation, and belonging from parents, teachers, partners, or society. This role is rooted in an unmet need to feel seen and valued. If you find yourself constantly people pleasing, over apologizing, or fearing rejection, you may be living from this role. Deep down, the belief is if they like me, I'll be safe. But approval seeking is a moving target. No matter how hard you try, it never feels like enough because the wound you're trying to heal isn't external, it's internal. You're allowed to take up space without apologizing. Real belonging begins when you stop auditioning and start being. Next is the role that hides pain behind the smile, the mascot, the emotional diffuser, using humor to cover hurt, often without anyone noticing. This role doesn't look wounded on the outside, but it often carries the deepest emotional weight. The mascot is the one who uses humor, lightheartedness, or silliness to diffuse the tension and distract from pain. They become the family clown, the entertainer, often masking deep anxiety or sadness underneath. This role often forms when a child senses the heaviness of family dysfunction, but has no power to change it. So they become the emotional buffer, the comic relief. If you played the mascot, you probably learned early that your job was to lift the mood, make people laugh, or distract from the chaos. But in doing so, your real emotions got buried. And here's something most people don't realize. These roles aren't fixed. When the family system shifts, your role often shifts with it. You may have started as the lost child, only to become the caregiver when a parent got sick or the golden child when a sibling acted out. These roles change to serve the family's dysfunction, not your truth. Just because you adopted them and you adapted doesn't mean that's who you are. Each of these roles, they form because as children, we deeply needed love, acceptance, and belonging. Childhood neglect or trauma causes us to create beliefs like if I am sick, they'll finally see me. If I'm perfect, they'll finally love me. If I take care of them, they'll care back. If I cause trouble, they'll pay attention. These roles were created in childhood out of desperation, not out of wisdom. You adopted them because you had to survive emotionally in an environment that didn't freely offer love and connection. But you're no longer that helpless child. Now you have choices. Coming home to yourself, this isn't about willpower, it's about healing the root cause of your pain. And that begins with awareness. Recognizing your role empowers your unconscious mind to choose new paths towards authentic love, meaningful connection, and true self worth. This is the heart of childhood trauma healing, not just understanding the role you played, but stepping into the person you truly are. They may never stop seeing you as the scapegoat, the golden child, the rebel, but your healing begins when you stop playing the part. Now, let's talk about some steps to break free and heal. Step one is awareness. Which of these roles do you recognize yourself in? Which one do you tend to play in order to feel loved, seen, or safe? Start there because awareness is the first step towards healing. Then, when you catch yourself in that role again, don't panic, just pause, reflect, observe. That moment of awareness becomes your classroom. This is not failure, it's feedback. That's where transformation begins. Step two is compassion. Understand where this role came from. These patterns didn't come out of nowhere. They were shaped by your earliest relationships and emotional environment. When you see that this was a survival strategy, not a character flaw, healing becomes possible. Number three is reframe. Realize these roles aren't your identity. They were your childhood strategy to survive. As you continue on your journey to heal, ask yourself, am I doing this for love or to get love? The issue isn't always the behavior, it's the motive behind the behavior. Are you helping, achieving, giving, performing because it's aligned with your heart or something you genuinely want to do? Or because deep down you're afraid you won't be loved unless you do it? Take this further and ask yourself, what are the downsides of rejecting this role? If I stop performing, who might I disappoint? If I stop caretaking, who might guilt me? If I stop being the problem child, what fears rise up when I'm no longer the distraction? These questions aren't meant to shame you, they're meant to free you. Because when you see what's underneath the role, you can start to heal what created it. Step four is seek support. Do that where it's needed, whether it's getting a trauma-informed coach, whether it's journaling, whether it's self-care. You want to intentionally pursue healing from complex trauma and take care of yourself while you do it. Step five is find a community. Connect with others who understand your journey to reinforce your healing. Check out our community. You can find the link in the description. Surround yourself with those who are healing, right? While hurt people, and that is why we're wounded. Healing people heal people. And that is an incredible lifeline to tap into. If any of these roles resonated deeply with you today, I've walked this path too. You're not stuck, you're healing, and you're doing beautifully. You have the strength and courage to step out of these old patterns and into the freedom of your authentic self. Remember, healing doesn't require perfection, it requires presence. It's okay to be messy, to fall back, to feel lost some days, just because showing up to your healing with honesty and heart, that's just keep doing it. Keep doing that. That's what matters. When you can finally say, this is my desire, this is my personality, these are my talents, I like who I am. Know this. That is a good day. That's not ego and it's not conceit. That's self-honoring, that's loving, that's healing. That's what reclaiming and standing in your worth looks like. It's time to get the family out of you and finally live as the person you were always meant to be. If this message spoke to your heart, hit subscribe, give this video a like, and share your story in the comments. Your voice matters more than you know. Take care of yourself this week. You're doing the brave, holy work of becoming who you truly are. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you in the next video.